Project 2025. Fine. I'll do a video about it. It's gotta be the most requested topic in the last week, and here's why. Because they are artificially creating outrage around it. Because the virality of the topic is complete propaganda. How do I know? Because they all hit the same talking points. How many times have you heard the phrase conservative LinkedIn? It doesn't even make any sense.
Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I do appreciate you clicking on the video to watch it, and since you are here, I would love it if you would help me to grow this channel and hit that subscribe button now. And to those of you that are returning, welcome back. You know I appreciate you coming back, supporting my channel, engaging in the conversations, leaving your comments, and I would love it if you would just make sure that you are subscribed as well. So what we're going to talk about today is something I wasn't even sure I was going to talk about at all, because in my opinion, it is just another tool of distraction rather than being a legitimate concern to either side of the political aisle, especially as the 2024 election gets closer. However, we do need to touch on it because it is becoming an effective tool of distraction, and as such, it does warrant at least some effort to nip it in the bud before potential voters, particularly within the Democrat voting base, absolutely loses their minds and rally too many people into yet another fear campaign and sway their friends in the wrong direction based on things that are grounded in hysteria rather than reality. So someone mentioned Project 2025 to me a few weeks ago, and it was honestly the first time I had ever heard of it. No one is talking about it, except, of course, the hysterical leftist media who want their voters to believe that this is an official plan of the Trump presidency, who would somehow put us in a worse position than the high inflation, open borders, sexualizing children, drug crisis, international security threat, anti-Semitic, hate-filled society that has been imposed on us by Biden's extremist behind-the-scenes handlers, even though Trump has a proven track record of doing just the opposite of all of that. But facts, am I right? But because the media has been spinning this nonsense to their gullible viewers, as small as that viewership might be, it has been popping up on my social media feed more and more. So what is Project 2025? Well, let's get a little bit of an explanation from our friend here who opened the video for me.
Project 2025 is a document and outline made by the Heritage Foundation. They're a conservative think tank. Project 2025 is basically their wish list of things that they'd like to see done. It was written almost 2 years ago and has been available to the public to read and review. Every 6 months or so, the paid propagandists push out the fear-mongering, and the fact that so many people are asking me about it, it's clearly working. Heritage Foundation is one of almost 2,000 think tanks in America. It's a big one, but not linked to Trump in any way. Want to know what Trump's plan for office is? It's called Agenda 47. You can find it on his website. Just do a quick search. If you want to be concerned, maybe focus on the UN's Agenda 2030, which almost the entire world has signed, including the US. Or focus on the Pandemic Treaty, which the US has also actually signed. You're so focused on documented ideas and ignore actual agreements world governments have signed without your consent or approval. When it seems like everyone is talking about the same thing, more often than not, it's manufactured propaganda.
And just going a little bit further with this article from News Nation, it says, essentially, the Project 2025 handbook acts as a manual for the next Republican president, detailing ways to reshape and give the executive branch more power. We need to flood the zone with conservatives, Paul Dans, director of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project at the Heritage Foundation and a former Trump administration official, said, according to the Associated Press. Building off 4 pillars, a policy agenda, personnel, training, and a 180-day playbook, Project 2025 organizers plan to pave the way for an effective conservative administration. So the bottom line is, this is something that has been put together by the Heritage Foundation more than 2 years ago, and though I'm sure there are solid suggestions and ideas in it, people do need to get a grip and understand that this is not in any way an official playbook by anyone within an official government capacity, including Donald Trump. In this article by the Washington Examiner, it says, former President Donald Trump said he does not know anything about Project 2025, a presidential transition framework led by the Heritage Foundation that conservatives had lauded as a way to reshape the federal government should Trump be reelected. In a Truth Social post on Friday, Trump said he knows nothing about Project 2025 and that he does not know who is behind the effort. However, the former president noted he disagrees with a handful of the pillars of the framework and argued that some of the ideas are ridiculous and abysmal, although he did not specify which ones. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them, Trump said. And just to go on a little bit more, it says Trump's effort to distance himself from Project 2025 comes as Democrats have sought to weaponize the conservative playbook to warn voters about what they say are dangerous changes to the federal government under a possible Trump administration. President Joe Biden's campaign was quick to respond, posting a video of Trump on X featuring comments in which the former president said the Heritage Foundation was critical to achieve conservative policies. A spokesperson for Project 2025 pushed back on claims that the framework is designed specifically for Trump, telling the Washington Examiner the group does not speak for any candidate or campaign. So basically, the media is pretending that this is some kind of legitimate manual that Donald Trump or any Republican in office plans to implement, and it's just not true. I mean, yes, the Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank, and there are things that they say and do that conservatives agree with and views that they share. But again, nothing they put together will be used in official capacity by the president. So based on what I just said, I would ask Democrats, particularly liberal women, to stop freaking out. But I know who I'm talking to, and therefore I know that's a lot to ask because y'all wouldn't be Democrats if you weren't literally fear-mongering about something, and it's really those reactions that we need to touch on. Because when you guys hear what they're actually losing their minds about, you'll see just how insane the priorities and values of at least part of our society have become. The fact that these are the ideas and concepts that people now find extreme and dangerous is beyond mind-boggling. First of all people, Lizzo has decided to weigh in on some of the things outlined in Project 2025. So let's hear what this scholar of all things public policy and government business had to say about it.
Supreme Court just ruled on, I think, 3 or 4 new laws that are really starting to put Project 2025 in motion. If you don't know what Project 2025 is, it is not a scare tactic. It is not a conspiracy. It is very real. And here are some of the guidelines. Unitary executive theory. Just read this. This would give the president complete and total power to pass any bill or law he wants.
So when we're talking about a president that can just make decisions and do whatever he wants, do you mean like Biden's over 100 executive orders that he signed into law when he first got into the White House without going through the Senate, Congress, or the Supreme Court? Or trying to force through student loan repayment with our tax dollars, admitting that he would again bypass all other branches of government to make it happen, but was suspended by the Supreme Court because the purpose of having 3 branches of government is to keep a president like Biden who would prefer to do everything through executive order in check. And you can tell when someone loves the idea of unitary executive theory when they constantly talk about bypassing Congress and abolishing the Supreme Court. And who's in favor of that again?
They're going to build that wall. Also, they're going to fast track certain immigrants if they pay a certain price.
Yes, Lizzo, because that's how legal immigration works. It costs money to apply. It costs money to go through the process. There are background checks, doctor's visits, and tests, just to name a few things, which are all part of the legal process. And there have always been fees associated with coming here legally. And I actually know that because my family moved here from Canada. Now, I have dual citizenship because my dad's from the US and my mom is from Canada. So when I moved here from Canada, the process was fairly simple, but all fees associated with that process came out of my pocket. But my mom, who's not a US citizen, has had to pay for everything out of her own pocket to move here, and every requirement was on her to cover. And guess what? My mom's a white lady from Canada because immigrant is not an ethnicity. You can come from any country and any background or ethnicity, and if you try to move to the US as a non-US citizen, you are an immigrant. But when you are so used to people flooding the border, being flown in and released into the interior of the country, and repeatedly hearing that the legal immigration process is racist because you've been told that immigrant equals black or brown people, which is a lie, then the legal immigration process is now what sounds extreme to you. But of course, that has been the entire goal of the repeated lies that you've been told by the left about the legal immigration process, to get you to believe that an invasion of unvetted people from all over the world is normal, and that a controlled, fair, and safe process is what's harmful. Congrats, Lizzo. You fell for it perfectly.
They want the next president to stop the war on oil and natural gas. You know, the reason why we're at war anyways right now, they already got rid of Roe v. Wade, so they've already started this part, and they want to get rid of the abortion pill. And lastly, he wants to get rid of the Department of Education, so this will happen. So all those books that are getting banned, they're just going to keep on banning them. And all this was made possible because Trump appointed 3 young Supreme Court justices during his presidency, and we are seeing the effects of that.
So just to go through the last couple of things she said, yes, stop the war on oil and gas so that people can continue to afford to heat their homes, to get to and from work, and afford to pay their bills. I mean, when you're someone with a net worth of $40 million like you, Lizzo, you don't have to think about those costs, so it's easy to virtue signal against oil and gas because you don't have to feel the repercussions of it. But to us everyday peasants, it's actually pretty devastating. As far as abortion, it's an issue that's in the hands of the states, but as it's been a consistent part of our American principles for like 250 years, the right to life is a fundamental right protected by the Constitution. And as far as the Department of Education, it is just another agency that has actively worked to promote harmful political agendas into kids' brains without actually educating them at all, as we have seen by how uneducated young adults in America really are, with this explosion of college students who have emerged from Ivy League schools, thousands of dollars in debt, yet they don't know anything about anything. And the most useful thing that they know how to do is camp out in a courtyard or glue their butt to a freeway. So the Department of Education is absolutely useless, as demonstrated by your understanding of any of these issues, Lizzo. So let's get to another TikTok reaction video that just has me absolutely shaking my head. And it's just one more demonstration of how leftist programming has turned people's brains into absolute mush, and where they now think that things that are sane, productive, and good are now extreme and oppressive. And you guys just aren't going to believe this. It's about 2 minutes long, but I'm just saying, take a deep breath before you listen to this.
The Republican Party's agenda for women in this upcoming 2024 election is pretty clear. They want us married to men and having their children, and that is the only thing they want for us. They don't want us to be single mothers. They don't want us to be in same-sex relationships, and they definitely do not want us to be childless. If you don't believe me, this came directly from their playbook, The Mandate for Leadership, on Project 2025's website. Let's start here. On page 13, promise number 4 says that they want to secure our God-given individual right to enjoy the blessings of liberty. They say the pursuit of the good life is found primarily in family, marriage, and children. On page 451, one of their goals for the Department of Health and Human Services is to promote stable and flourishing married families. Families comprised of a married mother, father, and their children are the foundation of a well-ordered nation and healthy society. Unfortunately, family policies and programs under President Biden's Health and Human Services are fraught with agenda items focusing on, quote, LGBTQ equity, quote, subsidizing single motherhood, disincentivizing work, and penalizing marriage. These policies should be repealed and replaced by policies that support the formation of a stable, married, nuclear family. Working fathers are essential to the well-being and development of their children, but the United States is experiencing a crisis of fatherlessness that is ruining our children's futures. Mind you, nowhere in here in this entire document are they addressing the root cause of fatherlessness at all. At no point have they held fathers accountable for this, but I digress. In the overwhelming number of cases, fathers insulate children from physical and sexual abuse, financial difficulty, or poverty, incarceration, teen pregnancy, poor educational outcomes, high school failure, and a host of behavioral and psychological problems. By contrast, homes with non-related boyfriends present are among the most dangerous place for a child to be. HHS should prioritize married father engagement in its messaging, health, and welfare policies. So they are pushing that women stay married to the fathers of their children.
I'm sorry, but what part of that was bad? What part of it was extreme? This woman is talking about stable homes and families with venom and hostility. Like, how did we get here? First, Republicans and conservatives have always been very open in encouraging women and men to get married, to have families, to stay married, and to provide a stable home for their children. Yet she's reading through these things like she's the first to discover this belief system, and she has to sound the alarm because no one has ever talked about conservatives and their belief and support of the nuclear family. It's just baffling. Secondly, all of what she read through is absolute fact that children raised in fatherless homes have a higher chance of being abused by a boyfriend or partner brought into the home by the mother. They have a massively increased likelihood of enduring financial instability and living in poverty. They have a significantly higher chance of getting involved in drugs and crime and young girls becoming pregnant at an early age and all of the other problems that she listed. That's all a fact. And that's not saying that fathers create a perfect environment and mothers create chaos and instability. That's not what we're saying at all. It just means that fathers and mothers should do everything they can to work in partnership with each other, preferably in the same home, to enable and empower each other to give the best that they both have to offer their kids. And if they do so, a loving and strong father in the home will instill stability, respect, direction, discipline, and motivation in their kids' lives, while mothers will instill compassion, empathy, comfort, and peace. When you have a home where men and women demonstrate respect for each other and work together, the strongest kids emerge, and therefore they create a stronger and more stable society. And this woman seemed to forget that the fact that the first sentence she read was about personal liberty, being able to have these options available and fostered by a strong society, by a stable economy, by all these things that encourage people to want to get married and provide a strong home to children. Just to have them available even as much as the destructive options are available. Like, that would be a step in the right direction at this point. What's even more mind-blowing to me is that she sees the Republican agenda to create an environment where kids are protected from crime, drugs, violence, and poverty as extreme, yet she's not at all bothered by the Democrat agenda to expose kids to extreme sexual fetishes, remove the protection of fathers, and have kids go through years in the public education system and emerge with no actual education. But all of this mind-melting has been intentional, because when you want to destroy a society, at least in one of the ways, which is what is happening now, you tell women they don't need a man, that kids are fine in single mother homes, that men are toxic, that women should just leave their marriage if they're simply not happy or just having a bad day or just need to heal, and you pretend that broken homes, divorced parents, and kids bouncing back and forth between households isn't going to impact them negatively, which is clearly everything that this woman has fallen for. It's astounding to me that someone can look at what's been laid out here and say, guys, you won't believe what Republicans want for us. They don't want us to be alone forever with a house full of cats and no one to share our lives with. They want us to live in stable homes with men who respect us, with kids who have the presence of both parents, and they don't want us to play the role of both mother and father. And get this, they want to give our kids the best chance to not end up in prison, to stay away from drugs, to get an education, and to be successful. This must be stopped. Does that sound crazy to anyone else? By contrast to what they find so threatening now, which are just normal, insane ideas, can you imagine if the leftist agenda had been laid out like this even 10 years ago? Like, if someone had just thrown out there like this, what would be normal in 2024 if they had done this like back in 2010 or 2014 and said, guys, let me tell you what Democrats want for us in Project 2024. They want women to raise kids on their own, to put every kid in daycare. They want us to leave the fathers of our children and have us believe that all men are stupid and oppressive. Not only that, get this, they want to have drag queens perform in our schools, remove the educational standards that help them grow and progress, and instead spend hours of class time learning that boys can be girls. And then they're going to let boys call themselves girls and to let them share bathrooms and dorm rooms with our daughters and let them compete against them in sports. And because of this switcheroo on what they're learning in school, high school grads won't be able to read above a third grade level. They won't be able to tell how many states we have in the US, but they'll be able to name 157 genders because they'll want us to believe that there are more than two. And it just gets worse. You're not going to believe this. They're going to open the border, eliminate the process to come here legally, and drug cartels are going to be able to flood our country with deadly substances that will turn our city streets into third world countries with human beings laying in their own feces and unable to function because exposure to these things will be almost impossible to avoid. But they didn't package things up like that 10 years ago, because had they done it like that, all of us would have said absolutely not. That's why it's been one step at a time to get people to accept these things. And obviously, they've been effective because now things that are sane, normal, and beneficial sound like extreme concepts. And the extreme that people have accepted as normal is actually what they want to preserve and protect. But anyway, they are all hyperventilating about this thing, pretending that it is Trump's agenda, when in reality, he has no ties to it whatsoever.
What you got to say about Project 2025?
Have you heard of Agenda 47?
Say what?
Agenda 47.
Nah.
It's the actual platform that Trump is going to push when he becomes president. It's listed on his official campaign website. Project 2025 is not to be found there. Matter of fact, Project 2025 was created by a conservative think tank named the Heritage Foundation.
It's supposed to make it illegal to be
Has
homeless.
nothing to do with Trump. Trump has neither endorsed nor supported this platform.
But again, I ask, even if Trump was associated with Project 2025, where's the lie? What was truly bad and awful about what these women were outlining and saying? Because my mind is blown that, again, they're looking at all of these sane and normal things that we all agreed on like 5 minutes ago. And now they're all like, oh my gosh, now they want to have a legal immigration process and they want people to stay married to the fathers of their children. But anyway, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. You are going to hear more and more about this because it is becoming a favorite fear-mongering tactic of the left. So I thought I would at least give you a heads up. But be sure to hit that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. Also be sure to scroll through my other videos because I talk about a wide variety of things that are going on today that I just think more people need to be aware of. But anyway, keep it real, guys. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.